Let me be very clear and state the obvious first and foremost. It is absolutely unacceptable that people be throwing things and endangering others at a political rally. There were volunteers and supporters. There are police officers there to keep everyone safe. There were journalists such as yourselves doing a really important job informing Canadians of what's going on in this election and some of the tensions that are out there.
So this is the entry point to the area of residents that we know have had contact with someone with coronavirus. So it is segregated from the general population. The team dons and doffs in this area, and if they travel down to the left, they go into isolation. If they travel down to the right, they go into the M3 and M4 block, which is the high contact group. A separate team look after this cohort of patients, including the swab team in the isolation area, and all services are delivered separately to the general population to this part of the camp. We're in the general area, or heading into the general area, so directly behind me you'll see a gate. So that gate remains shut, and that's the one the team members will enter to reach the L and the N blocks. To my right you'll see some caddies. Those caddies are being used for people to be transferred and moved around by the team. And to our right is the recreation area where team members can enter, but our residents do not. So we're going to take you in there now. So we're entering the indoor gymnasium area. It's air conditioned for our residents. On the left-hand side here, we've got a trivia activity occurring at the moment. And you'll see these are people that have come from only one block, one area of the facility, and they'll have a 1 hour designated time slot. Over here, we have our high-end hygiene station on the way in, fresh mask if required, or fresh mask on exit. People are scanned on entry, and they're scanned on exit as well. So one of the challenges of running a quarantine facility is finding people like quizmasters to come in and help with entertainment. This is why our staff have taken on these roles. With the China group, we're able to bring in children entertainment, which was a huge hit, but with this age demographic, we needed a series of other activities. Quiz seems to be very popular. So this is the second area of the basketball court. So we've divided it into two, which means another group can use this under supervision. This is the area for table tennis, snooker, bowls and other activities. And depending on what group you're in, depends on what hour you get in here. Any equipment or surfaces are then disinfected after use with Clenel wipes after the residents leave, ready for the next group. So what's happening here is Simon is chaperoning Gavin around. He's a fridge mechanic, so the only way tradies can enter this area is if they're chaperoned by a member of the OSMAT staff. This is to ensure PPE is maintained, it's not breached, that they're supported through this process and they don't enter areas that they shouldn't. So that's Simon's predominant role today, will be just to bring trades on site to correct any areas that we need assistance with. So we're standing at the entrance for residents who need to enter the cinema, and you can see the long pathway down there. That's the direction that residents in L and N will enter this area of the compound. The doors we've come through are limited to staff entry and exit only. I'm going to take you into the cinema now so you can see an area that we've been using for information sessions. So this is the entrance to the cinema. It's a 50-seater cinema. At the entrance point there is a hand hygiene station that all guests will go through. It's an allocated time that each of the blocks of residents are allowed to enter this area, and which is carefully supervised. If you come with me, I'll show you what it looks like. So the cinema space is currently being used for information sessions for residents. There are over 10 sessions that are being run by our epidemiologist, infectious disease doctor. Our guests come in. Black plastic garbage bags are placed over the seats prior to their entry. They are seated 2 seats apart and a row in between, and only a group from each of the building blocks is allowed in at any time. That's no more than 19 people in this space, despite it being a 50-seater. Staff are in attendance throughout that time period to provide support and supervise and ensure masks are being worn, and things like hand hygiene are also being done. We also are using the Track Me device in this area to scan people on entry and exit, so we have contact tracing of where they've been in the facility during their stay. So the cinema was used for the Chinese cohort literally for watching movies in family groups with the gaps in between. After the cinema is completed, we wipe down all surfaces with Clinell wipes. The garbage bags are removed and fresh garbage bags are placed for the next sitting. So this area gets opened up at particular times and it leads to the grass area. So we've got a series of channels to facilitate movement of people at designated times that are then supervised in their movement by the AUSMAT team members. I'll take you down to the grass area, which is opened as of this evening. Once all the grass was prepared and the snakes were removed, it was ready to go. We're standing in the area of Precinct 1. That's where the China group were housed. So that's down to my left, down through those gates. And the Japan group are in Precinct 4, which is to my right, quite a distance away. And we're heading towards the sports field, which is directly ahead. So we've shut down the China area and kept that clean in case it needs to be used. And instead we've funneled through a series of channels the Japanese group at designated times to be able to still use the sports screen. So behind me is the sports field. The reason that's important, it was the main evacuation point for China. You'll see all the signage on the fences, which directs people in their building blocks of where they need to muster. Those muster points are separated by the other groups, so we kept everybody separate even during evacuations. People were scanned on the way through the gate and directed to their building block where a team member would check their name off a list because it was the same team member that used to screen them every day. That way we could accurately identify who was here, who was missing, and ensure we maintain the quarantine standards even during the evacuation period.
Hello, my name's Commander Colin Drysdale. I'm the Commander for Northern Command for Australian Border Force, and I'm responsible for coordinating the whole of government response for the Howard Springs Quarantine Facility. This was quite a complex situation to organise. We have multiple federal and territory government agencies involved in the stand-up of the facility, as well as multiple contractors. And it's been a challenge from the start to bring the facility up from basically what was a mothball facility for the past 18 months up to an accommodation facility which has held at its maximum 430 guests over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Working with the agencies has been an absolute pleasure. The level of cooperation between all the government agencies has been of the highest calibre, and we've managed to have a fully functioning quarantine facility, and we've been successful in the first cohort being repatriated home, and we're looking very much forward to the second cohort leaving the facility next Thursday.
Nobody should be doing their jobs under the threat or under the threats of violence or acts that put them in danger. That's absolutely unacceptable. But it's not just at political rallies that this is happening. There are healthcare workers across the country who are getting hassled and intimidated and bullied as they're going into work to keep people safe and alive. There are store clerks and waitresses and people going out there around their daily lives getting yelled at and pushed around for wearing masks, for being vaccinated. That's not how we do things in Canada. And quite frankly, as I continue to campaign, I am inspired by those people who continue to do the right thing in the face of anti-vaxxer mobs who are not respecting the basic science and the basic decency that Canadians have rightly come to expect from each other. This is not who we are as a country, and I will continue to stand up to defend journalists, police officers, healthcare workers, anyone in this country who has done the right thing, gotten themselves vaccinated, wants to get back to normal, nobody should be getting that kind of intimidation or endangerment that these angry mobs are putting forward.